Good morning. We made it to Friday. This week felt kind of long, not gonna lie. But we've made it to Friday. And I wanted to come on here to tell you that you should definitely go to my YouTube channel and watch my full moon tarot divination. I kind of do this thing where I get like psychic downloads while I'm doing the reading, kind of passing in and out of like trance and channeling. It's really interesting. This is why I always say, like, you can read all the books that you want to on tarot and what the cards mean. Hey y'all, you can get your little white book, you can get your, little black book or whatever of tarot card meanings, but there is some other unquantifiable, unmeasurable, hi Winter, unmeasurable force, presence that shows up during divination, and you got to be open for that. You got to be able to hear it, able to see it. That's what really divination is about. Anyways, I'm not going to rehash talking about the full moon because I've talked about that on Twitter. I have a video up on YouTube from my Instagram live on Monday. And so you can really just go look at that. What I do want to talk about, the rest of May is relatively quiet. I'm actually looking at my sidereal moon transits. So all of the purple is clients, but all of the green and light blue are moon sign transits and planetary transits. So for example, tomorrow is the full moon in Scorpio, and it's in my calendar. The rest of this month is the sun conjoins Mercury in Taurus next week. That's like the only thing I really have on my calendar. After that, Mercury's gonna oppose Jupiter, so there we go with that whole Taurus Scorpio opposition again. After that, that's really it actually. But what is not on the calendar, what is not in the 2019 sidereal astrology guide, what you would not know unless I told you or you pay attention to stuff like this, is that next week, Tuesday, May 22nd, Mars is going to be the first planet in eclipse season to trigger one of the major eclipse degrees. Now, if you've been following me for any length of time, going all the way back to 2017, you know that I love to track eclipse triggers, meaning that once a planet enters a sign of the eclipses, generally, we want to see what is the first planet to enter a sign. Mars was the planet this year, the first planet to enter Gemini. So Mars is going to cross over 9-10 degrees Gemini on May 22nd. And that is legit. May 22nd, May 23rd. Mars is going to cross over that 9-degree, 10-degree eclipse degree. Now, every year, there generally is like one, like a big eclipse where, the configurations that occur with the eclipse, along with the eclipse, is like pretty intense. So if we were to go backwards, I think I missed my turn, and track like the big eclipses of each year, definitely of 2017, it was the August 21st total solar eclipse. That was an eclipse that we actually could see here in the United States, and it was a big thing. And if you are paying attention to astrology, that 4 degrees of Leo eclipse is why everything is happening that is happening in America right now. Why everything that is happening with the presidency and Donald, all of that stuff is connected back to that eclipse, okay? 2018's big eclipse was July. I need to make it UE. Was July. What was the date of that eclipse? Like the 26th, I believe. Like July 26, 2018, I believe. So the August 21st, 2017 eclipse was a big deal because it was a total solar eclipse. It was visible and it was conjoined the ascendant and Mars of the President of the United States. So historically, you can use the chart of the president or leader of a country to indicate kind of what's happening within that country, okay? So that's why that's a big deal. When we get to July of 2018, that eclipse is a big deal because we have like a once in every once or twice a decade, century, Mars retrograde. And I'm gonna need something good for women. Oh yeah, I don't know about that. Once or twice a decade, Mars retrograde in Capricorn very rarely happens in that sign. The full moon eclipse in July 2018 was conjunct Mars retrograde. So that particular eclipse is tracking stories connecting back to the Great Recession and forward to the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in Capricorn in 2021. So that the 2018 big eclipse in Capricorn is what laid the groundwork for economic happenings in the world in 2020 and 2021, okay? The big eclipse this year is December 26, 2019. On that day, the sun, the moon, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, and the South Node are all going to be in Sagittarius. That's a big deal. That's rare, okay? First of all, you are only going to get Saturn and Jupiter in the same sign every 20 years, okay? So just to have a time period in general, eclipse or not, where is this street I'm trying to turn on? Eclipse or not, where Saturn and Jupiter are going to be in the same sign, that can only happen every 20 years, okay? Now, for Saturn and Jupiter to both be in Sagittarius, that can only happen every 60 years, okay? So the last time Saturn and Jupiter would have been in Sagittarius together would have been in 1959, 1960, okay? You see where I'm going with this? Now, if we want to have Saturn and Jupiter in the same sign, right? 20 years. If we want to have Saturn and Jupiter in Sagittarius, that's 60 years. If we want to have Saturn and Jupiter in Sagittarius at an eclipse, oh man, now we're getting into super rare, not even once in a lifetime astrological configurations, okay? For Saturn and Jupiter to be in the same sign while there is an eclipse in that sign, that's like, I would have to really go back and actually look, because just the astrological probability of that based on the cycles that I know of offhand, that might not even be a once a century kind of thing, or maybe it's a once a century kind of thing. So the eclipse that we are all going to witness, December 26, 2019, is rare by any standard of measurement, okay? So every single, what a time to be alive, absolutely. So every single time a planet crosses over that 9 degrees, it's like 9 degrees and 59 minutes or 10 degrees and 0 minutes of Sagittarius. Every time a planet crosses a point conjunct, square, or opposed that specific degree, that is a trigger, and pay attention. This is why that's your birthday. Ooh, we friends, because that's my ascendant degree and Jupiter degree. Hopefully it don't take me out of here. Wish me luck, y'all. This is why every single time the moon enters the mutable signs, I cannot make this up. Every single time the moon enters Virgo, Gemini, Sagittarius, or Pisces, things go interesting, right? There is a very clear narrative emerging as we watch the moon transit eclipse degrees transit the mutable signs. However, Mars on May 22nd and May 23rd is going to be the first planet to really directly kind of oppose that eclipse degree. Now, we can go back, we could go back to, and I'm gonna look at my calendar, my ephemeris. I'm scared for my eclipse reading. Oh, I don't even know why y'all be bringing fear as if I'm about to, like, I don't even know. I don't even be honoring y'all fears, because y'all fears are rooted in lack of knowledge and wisdom. So, you know, just relax. Mars in Pisces, January 2019 would have also triggered this eclipse degree. So I don't want to overlook that. Let me give y'all that date. Then y'all can go look back at your calendars and your emails and your text messages and all of that stuff and see what was going on. So Mars crossed this degree. Let's see, this would have been January 6th or 7th of 2019. January 6th, 7th, 2019. That was when Mars in Pisces triggered that that eclipse degree. So May 22nd, 23rd, Mars again, this time from Gemini. The opposition is intense because it is a direct kind of a square. Is like something's coming from around the corner and you like peeking to see it. But an opposition is like tete-a-tete, it's head-to-head, face-to-face, and you can't really ignore it. That's why these oppositions to the eclipse degree are such a big deal, okay? So here we are next week. Let me just remind you, some of y'all don't follow me on Twitter, and so you miss these times where I'm quoting news stories, along with these little like phrases that I associate with eclipses. So I'm going to give y'all the rundown of these phrases and you can see where they work in your life, okay? When we're talking about the Gemini side of mutable madness, the Gemini side of the eclipses, we are talking about words mean things. Use your words. Words mean things. The important thing here is to understand two sides of the coin here. One, people in general are really shitty communicators. They're very, very, very bad at articulating themselves because, one, this is so funny. I was kind of buzzed last weekend and my Gemini son like gave me these insights into Gemini as I'm like observing him. It's actually really helped our communication because I kind of got inside of his head. Gemini is like the talk box in your head, and the talk box talks, and then you listen to the talk box, and then your mouth talks, right? Like no discrimination, no thinking, no, you know, do I want to say that? Is that what I mean? The talk box talks and the mouth, it's like a ventriloquist for Gemini. So you see, for example, you know, Donald Trump has Mercury in Gemini and he literally has no self-restraint. The talk box talks and he talks, right? Like the talk box talks his mouth. There is no sense of That's a very interesting thought, but I don't think that that's actually what I want to say or mean. The talk box talks and his mouth talks it, and that's it. So all of that to say that in general, most people are really poor communicators. One, because they don't think before they speak. Two, they don't really know what they mean when they're talking, right? They haven't really processed their thoughts and feelings about things, so that when they open their mouth, the contents of their subconscious and unconscious emerge. So it's not a conscious directed kind of thinking and communication. Number three, people are poor communicators because most people do not know how to listen. Most people do not know how to hear beyond the biases of the narratives they're invested in. If somebody is intent upon believing you ain't no good, every single thing you say will be turned against you, right? Same way if you don't like somebody, single thing that they say is gonna piss you off, right? Because you have your own biases. You're interpreting this person through your own emotional filter. Okay, so with that being said, Gemini triggers, Mars in Gemini eclipses, words mean things. You cannot listen to somebody talk and say something and be like, oh, they really didn't mean that. At this point, it's so important to remember that words are indicative of the contents of people's intentions, their hearts, their convictions. How we've gotten into this mess is because we don't believe what people say. Trump said exactly who he was and what he was going to do. And because of people's inability to hear and listen, they're so invested in a narrative that does not exist that they couldn't even see that, wow, Hillary Clinton told us what was going to happen. So many people said exactly what was going to happen, but because I am so invested, I refuse to believe that someone could have these intentions. It's very arrogant, actually, for you not to be able to perceive the intentions of another person because you yourself wouldn't do it. I would never. I don't believe that way. I don't feel that way. What does Gemini come to teach us during these triggers, during the eclipse in Gemini on July 2nd? Words mean things. What have you said that is very possible? Although that's just the story of the day. I mean, if you pay attention right now, just pay attention. Astrology is so literal, so literal. Sidereal astrology is so literal. And I mentioned this on Twitter, and I couldn't find the actual tweet where I first said it, that once we got into the Gemini phase of Mercury madness, we're talking about paperwork, right? We're talking about papers, filing things. So this whole process that's happening right now with the house is all about subpoenaing papers, conversation, words. I need the copy. I need the audio of the voicemail. I need the audio of the recorded phone conversations. I need a copy of the bank records. I need a copy of the tax returns. What does Mercury rule? Oh my God. What does Mercury rule? Mercury is paper. Duh, correspondence. I always say that Gemini is like the radio transmitter, right? You know, translating one signal into another medium. What is paper? Paper allows you to take words out of your brain and put them on paper. You don't judge the paper. You don't get mad at the paper. The paper is just holding the words. Why are you gonna slap the paper? What the paper do to you, right? But the whole point is that words mean things. And this Gemini phase of mutable madness is about paper. It's about words. It's about examining the contents of the records. It's about what did you say and what was implied by what you said. Did you really mean that? Wow. This is really not a good place to stop, but okay. So, what else do I want to talk about? I want to talk about technology. I want to talk about travel. I want to talk about what's the word I'm trying to think of? I want to say cell phone companies, but that's not what we call them anymore. I mean, I guess they are. I want to talk about media. I want to talk about news, journalists, all mouthpieces, things that are amplifying messages, propaganda. I want to talk about journalists. I want to talk about libraries. I want to talk about teachers, radio, television, mass media, social media, right? These are all Gemini words. All of these Gemini words, okay? All of these Gemini concepts. These are the things we're focusing on. What's happening with the newspapers? What's happening with the radio? What's happening with the news media? What's happening with school books? What's happening with books in libraries? What's happening with information? What is happening? What is happening? What is happening to the tax returns? Are we going to see the papers? Are we going to read the papers? Are the papers going to even be true? They're going to have the information we're looking for, right? This is Gemini, okay? Don't overlook the obvious people. What paperwork, what contracts, what, you know, like, let's just be real literal. When you're doing this eclipse guide and stuff, be literal. If we are talking about Gemini, we're talking about contracts, Mercury, paperwork. We're talking about messages and correspondences, okay? So this is the big story of next week, right? Once we hit next week, Mars is triggering eclipse degrees. We got May 23rd, May 22nd first. Then let's see what comes after that. We're looking at 16 degrees, which is the degree of the solar eclipse. That's a big one, booze. That is, Mars is going to hit 16 degrees Gemini. Oh, that's not till June 1st. May 31st, June 1st. So that's the other eclipse. Y'all get your calendars, get your guides, get your journals, write these dates down and pay attention to what's happening on that day. May 22nd is a really interesting day as well, because in Chinese astrology, in Bazi, the calendar that day is a very, very strong earth day. That element dominates and overrides. So earth is always going to kind of take us back to 2018 in recent memory, because that was a very strong earth year. So like July of 2018, October of 2018, those were all very strong earth months. Even June of 2018 was fire producing earth, but still we got some fire producing earth this year, controlling water, so that if you have water as a beneficial element, then it's good. If water is one of your beneficial elements, then that could be a rough day. If water is one of the elements that undermines the flow of your chart, then that could be a good day for you. Anyways, all of this to say, the next really, we're already in eclipse territory. So from here on out, it only gets more intense, people. If you do not know, the dates of the eclipses this year are July 2nd. Well, we had one on January 6th. The Gemini and Sagittarius eclipses. New moon solar eclipse, January 6, 2019 in Sagittarius. New moon solar eclipse in Gemini, 16 degrees, July 2nd, 2019. Full moon lunar eclipse, is that 20? I believe it's 28 degrees. Hold on, let me see. 28 degrees. I need more coffee, I got a headache. July 16th, 2019. Full moon lunar eclipse at 29 degrees Sagittarius. Big eclipse of the year is December 26th, 2019. 10 degrees Sagittarius. Solar eclipse. Total solar eclipse. Won't be visible here, but I believe it should be visible in like Japan, Australia, New Zealand, China. Yeah, it should be visible there, because it'll be happening, I want to say it's happening at like midnight or something, or 11 o'clock at night here in the States, Central Time. So that might be happening at like sunrise in Europe, because what are they, 7 hours? Yeah. Yeah, so, oh man, that looks like it's hitting the Middle East too. So it'll be visible in the Middle East, which does not bode well for religious conflict. Do I have a fave ascendant? I don't even know what that means. What is a favorite ascendant? I don't know what that means. yeah, so that's that on that. I'm actually sitting out here waiting for the cupcake shop to open because I have a problem. So, just pray for me. But it's Friday and they got that like chocolate caramel toffee cupcake, and I'm just not gonna let this day pass like without me being satisfied by these cupcakes. So I don't have a favorite anything. I don't have a favorite planet sign. My favorite is astrology. I love astrology. I love astrology. All right, you guys have a happy, I hope you like my golden like this morning. You guys have a happy Friday, happy weekend. Enjoy this full moon. Please go watch the full moon in Scorpio video tarot divination. The link is in my bio. All right. Bye, y'all.